The planet wants to know what happened in the Ohio violation of the Civil Protection Orders court against LIEnette and Crook. And George, we're about to tell them, aren't we?
We sure are.
George, you were flying all the way from Otter Creek back up to Ohio just for this court case. What happened?
My flight out Thursday got canceled due to the global outing that affected thousands of flights all across the globe, and thousands of Zoom calls were affected as well.
That Microsoft glitch thing all of a sudden made sure that George was in Tampa and not Ohio. And frankly, both of us were up till about 4 a.m. just trying to figure out if I was going to be able to pick you up at the airport, whether you were even going to get in a flight, and we had to be in court at 9 a.m.
My flight kept getting delayed, then I kept getting more delays, and it kept getting more delayed, and then finally they told us that we would be landing to our destination at 4 a.m. Come to find out, at 2 o'clock, they canceled all flights. So at 2 a.m., I had to call a nearby hotel to find room, get some sleep, and be up bright and early to attend the court via Zoom at 9 a.m.
Which we didn't even know if she was going to be able to attend via Zoom, because normally you would have to file a motion for her to appear via Zoom.
Correct.
But we had our fingers crossed, and we had found out the day before that LIEnette actually had legal representation. You want to touch base on that?
We did. We found out that a law tuber,
if you could call him that, but keep going.
Law tuber
Keep going.
decided to dedicate his time and knowledge to keep her from making herself look a fool in court.
Or ambulance chasing for clout, for promotion, for... We will not say his name.
She definitely wasn't the one to find him. He solicited her.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's 100%. And by the way, that is absolutely not appropriate. So what happens is we actually get to the courthouse, or I do. I have George on the phone with me at the courthouse, and then I'm meeting my lawyer there as well. And so first thing I do is when I meet my lawyer, I say, Eli, I got a problem. I said, there's been a situation. George is not here. And he goes, all right, come on, let's go talk about this. I'm like, she's in a hotel right now. We're hoping we can get Zoom. He's like, I'll see if I can get the Zoom link. He emails you the Zoom link. Mm-hmm. You're all set up. And then the judge comes out and says, all right, come on in. We're going to go over to this visitor judicial room. And says, you guys can come on in. And we go to the door, but it's locked. So they have to come back through the door and actually unlock it so we can sit down, and we're in a full courtroom. George is on Zoom, and so George isn't seeing the things that I'm seeing or hearing the things that I'm hearing.
Because at this point, I'm backstage waiting for the Ohio judge to let me enter the Zoom meeting.
And no longer on the phone with me, which would not be appropriate in the courtroom. It would never be appropriate for anybody to be on the phone with anybody in the courtroom or to go live. Even if you have a speeding ticket you are fighting, that is illegal and not appropriate. So George is waiting. Things are going on. I'm getting seated. My lawyer's getting seated. Her legal counsel is getting seated. His background is in martial arts. Believe it or not. And so I will state this right from the forefront. George and I are still conflicted whether he's for us or against us. That's how ridiculous this court hearing was. We still can't determine, is he for us and is he helping us by defending her, or is he against us? And I think the best way to describe him is, if you've seen Chris Farley in Black Sheep, or no, it was the Black Ninja, right? Or the White Ninja. What was it? He was the ninja.
Kung Fu.
Was it Kung Fu Ninja?
Yeah.
And when he's meditating and he's getting to the
Beverly
higher...
Hills Ninja.
That's what it is. Beverly Hills Ninja. And he's meditating and getting to the higher place, and he's trying to get up in the clouds. He's like... Yep.
Oh,
that's it.
The peacocks know all about it.
That's pretty much the equivalent of what all of this looked like. And he claims to be a martial arts expert, but I think Chris Farley actually is in better martial arts shape than him. But things are a little crazy because from the get-go, as the door opens, this is where the whole flailing and all of this comes in. The judge goes, I know who these two are. Who are you? And he goes, well, I'm legal counsel for LIEnette Preston and John Crook. And so she goes, that's odd because I don't have any information on that. And he goes, well, I mailed it earlier this week. Okay, we have court on Friday. You're mailing your appearance in. You know you're going to be appearing, and you're mailing your appearance in days before the actual court date. And he goes, I know in this type of situation in your courts, you are not allowed to electronic file. Well, why don't you just go down to the court and make sure they have that notice? And he goes, I'll go take my business card. I'll share with them my business card. And I'm thinking right then and there, judge is going to kick him out. And she goes, she's already mad. She's already frustrated because proper procedure is not being adhered to.
Especially when there's been a notice weeks upon weeks for this particular day for court.
So why would anybody, if you're a professional, actually wait and mail in your appearance? Well, this is an individual that works out of a P.O. box. So that should tell you the very first thing. This is also an individual that wants a growing audience on YouTube, which is not going to get it from us.
He has a YouTube channel too, like Craig DeThomas's does?
Yes, just like Craig DeThomas's. Wow. He's more successful on YouTube than Craig DeThomas's, but both trying to get that following. Yeah, it's not quite working for them.
So you think that was his MO, to cover her to get more followers on his YouTube channel?
Well, there's no way she's paying him, so the only way
that would be
he
part
would
of soliciting her, though, because that's how he's going to get paid.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
that's true. In views and subscribers.
Yeah, that is true. Well, you won't get it from us.
Interesting.
So that is extremely interesting that the other side from the get-go is already frustrating and upsetting the judge. And so from that point, she turns on, and I have more insight on this beginning part because she's still in the back room, but she turns on Zoom and she announces the presence of George, and then she announces the presence of LIEnette. And the funniest part is, and you have to hold on to this part, LIEnette goes, I have no voice.
She goes, I need a continuance. So her already raspy voice was even more raspy from yelling and screaming. Remember, this woman has a history of yelling. She has a temper. She doesn't
screaming all the time.
Patience, like she does not have patience as part of her character.
Just a little patience.
And so she asked for a continuance in her raspy voice.
So she asked for a continuance for Crook as well because their legal representation. George, look at this. We can swing.
Okay, but don't swing too much because I'm gonna barf.
Sweet. I almost did. I literally almost did in court. And so as much as we laugh about this, as much as we joke about this, it's very, very stressful.
It is very stressful because the entire time my anxiety level was so high. My stomach was in knots. Like my stomach started hurting that I had to get ginger ale to help calm my stomach down. And it did help.
And I was having another panic attack or an anxiety attack, pretty much the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I even leaned over to Eli, my lawyer, and I was like, I'm in the middle of an anxiety attack again. I was like, same thing that happened last time when I was in court for violation of the civil protection orders. These two have tormented our lives. And then they want to cry that they're a victim. And this is the other thing that just drives me crazy. There are people that say, no, they are a victim. We should never do videos on them. We shouldn't share all this information and evidence. Oh, right. So we should just empower them to keep doing this to other people. No, we're going to call them out on it, regardless of what they've done to our lives and how fearful we are and how stressful it is and how frustrating it is. We are going to try and protect other people from this happening to us.
Well, I think a lot of people are forgetting that these people were fans of ours. They found us through YouTube, and they intentionally moved across the street from us to be close to us. And because they didn't get what they wanted, which was promotion for their turtle rescue, donations from our fan base, that's when everything spiraled because they didn't get their way. Come to find out, family members have even confirmed that when she doesn't get her way, she will spiral out of control and behave this way.
And she
It's
has
a pattern.
followed the
It's an ongoing
same pattern
for decades.
And you can see other people who follow this same pattern on YouTube as well. And that doesn't mean, the funny thing is they want to go, Jeremy attacks elderly. Okay. Jeremy attacks women. Okay.
There was elderly women helping Deanna and I at the schoolhouse volunteering, and I invited them to come to the town hall meeting.
Huh. Interesting.
It has nothing to do with age.
Yeah, or gender, or anything else. Has nothing to do with it. Has everything to do with them doing horrific things, posting signs trying to destroy my reputation, stating that I rapist their daughter. I mean, I can't even begin to fathom what somebody watching this would have done if somebody did that to their life. Would they go, oh, Jesus said turn the other cheek? No, Jesus said turn the other cheek, forgive. He also said follow the authority that God has placed over you, which is our government, and this is how you deal with these things. And there's accountability to it, and that's through the court system, and Florida won't take the system seriously, and it's flawed, and it's corrupt. Therefore, we document everything in regards to it so it never happens to anybody else again, and they never have to go through the torment that we've had to go through. It's accountability. So we get in there, LIEnette from the go, I have no voice, which we have witnesses stating that the day and the night before, as they were driving down North Otter Creek Avenue, they have her filmed screaming and yelling. You wonder why this woman has no voice. Constantly screaming and yelling constantly. All right, so they bring you in onto the Zoom. What's going on in your mind? What's going on in the courtroom?
The judge made us all identify ourselves, and then she asked both myself and LIEnette if we were both recording, and I said no, and then she asked LIEnette and she said no, because it is illegal to be able to film or take photographs or record.
Now the court can do that. The participants cannot.
Correct.
Yeah. So what happens is there's this whole conversation that comes up whether there's going to be a separation of witnesses, which George is the main witness. This situation is truly about George and John Crook and LIEnette Preston showing up at town hall at 4:45 and George showing up at 6:15 and then not leaving for an hour and a half.
So intentionally camping out in front of town hall, thinking because if they're there first, then we have to leave.
Correct. And so if George isn't the first witness, which we already had planned beforehand with our lawyer that I would go first, then George, well, then there would be a separation of the witnesses because George would have to wait because she could actually tailor her answers based on what I said. That's why you separate the witnesses. But if George comes in first, then, and if she's questioned first and cross-examined first, then she can stay for the whole thing because I am afterwards and I am the main petitioner, okay? And so they went through this whole aspect of, well, we're just gonna bring George up first. And so from that point,
that way the judge didn't have to worry about taking me back to the back room again or me having to hop off and then coming back on. It eliminated any disruption with the Zoom call.
Well, there was a conversation before that. Because Crook is detained in jail right now, the question arose that we could file for continuance and do both of these hearings at the exact same time, or move forward with LIEnette and then go back with Crook. And so my lawyer asked to meet with me outside of the courtroom for just a couple minutes. He said, what do you want to do? He goes, my lawyer goes, I say we just do it at the same time. We're using the same evidence. And I said, no. I said, we do it right now. We take care of LIEnette, and then we're filing for attorney fees anyway, and she's going to grant it because they continue to break the civil protection order. This is going to increase attorney fees, and therefore we're going to have 2 trials, increased attorney fees, therefore a bigger penalty for both of them. We do this one now, and then we get a feel for this litigant, this actual counsel who no joke, he operates out of a P.O. box. In other words, he doesn't really have a business. That's what it comes down to. And I said, we get a feel for him, and then we know what we do in the next hearing, which was actually pretty genius afterthought, because now we know exactly what he was going to ask, and he's going to do the same thing for John Crook, and we can be better prepared for that. So I said, I want to continue with the trial today, and in another month we can get the continuance for Crook. And then the judge said, if he does not show up on Zoom, the trial goes by default regardless. He only has one chance, and one chance only.
So the council did fail to reach out to his public defender while he's incarcerated to request for him to join on Zoom. Therefore, that's why he wasn't there. But then again, this is the same counsel that waited last minute to file his notice of appearance. So are you surprised?
No. Complete and total lack of professionalism. And that's where George and I are scratching our heads going, is he for us or is he against us? We honestly still don't know. He is either one of the worst lawyers ever and he's against us, or he's pretending to be the worst lawyer ever and he's actually for us. So you get called to the witness stand over Zoom. How does that go?
Attorney Eli asked me a set of questions, and I felt comfortable asking them. His questions made sense to me.
You know what I'm thinking about right now, right?
What?
When he was questioning you, and he said, and George, Mr. Crook. He said John Crook.
He accidentally slipped and called him Crook, which I didn't hear.
Oh, I did.
I didn't hear it. I just heard Mr. Crook, and that was the only thing that
that's the only thing he objected to. You would think he would objected to everything, and we'll get to that, but our attorney says, and he already told us in our meeting the day before, he's like, oh my goodness, I can only know these guys as LIEnette and Crook. He goes, and he was messing up on our meeting the day before, and he goes, this is going to be bad if I do this in court, and he did it.
But it was completely innocent.
It was innocent.
And the judge got on him about that. She's like, if that happens one more time.
No, the judge got on the opposing counsel. So the opposing counsel goes, I object, his name isn't Crook, it's Crook. This is inappropriate. This is unprofessional. And the judge got on him, the unprofessional lawyer, and said, listen, it was an accident. If it happens again, then I'll take appropriate consequences. But it was obviously an accident. Proceed. So the judge jumped on her lawyer about it, not on mine.
Oh, I perceived it as if it were to happen again, because I heard Attorney Eli say, I apologize, Your Honor. It was an honest mistake. I won't let it happen again.
And it was an honest mistake, and he was already fearful of doing it. He told us that before, because that's how we identify them. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we have chosen to do is identify them with nicknames so that we're not broadcasting their full names. Now, their full names are obviously public. They're running a public tortoise rescue, if you can call it that. They're putting out public GoFundMes everywhere. Their arrest records are public, and it continues to go on. But that was one of the funniest parts. And the only objection that her lawyer had, which there are so many things he could have objected to.
There may have been one or two other objections. We don't remember. Like, I don't remember everything that happened, but that was the one memorable objection.
Okay, so he did object to you talking about Levy County not enforcing the civil protection orders.
So their government entity.
Yeah, and he said, this is not a case about the Florida government entity. And the judge said, carry on. And so there was that objection as well. But you would have thought he would have been objected to our testimony about anything. All right, but keep going.
So Attorney Eli asked me maybe a dozen questions, and I don't remember every question. That'll be for a future video. And then her legal counsel was given an opportunity to cross-examine me. But his cross-examination I found was odd, because he didn't ask anything pertaining to the allegations. Nothing. And he filed for discovery, which he got the video that we used in court.
Paperwork.
Didn't ask me anything pertaining to the exhibits or the evidence. He kept asking about analytics on YouTube.
It was like he wanted a YouTube education. It was insane. Like, you can't make this stuff up. It was insane.
It was.
And we're sitting there.
Like, it was irrelevant. I found it irrelevant. I'm surprised
Completely.
Attorney Eli didn't object for relevancy.
So what Attorney Eli was not objecting for is because these two are such fools, and they continue to just further dig holes from themselves. Well, their free attorney is digging a further hole. It is not relevant at all. He asked no questions about the actual. This is where we're sitting here going, is he actually helping us? Because he is either horrible or he is a true fan of What the Hales, and he's helping us.
And that was his way of his free meet and greet.
Yeah, it was like, hey, can you teach me about YouTube so maybe I can do good on YouTube? Like, it was crazy. And the entire time, your stomach is in knots. You don't feel okay.
Yes. So I want to say, he asked me a question that didn't make any sense to me, and I asked him if he could rephrase it. And then he tried to rephrase it, and I still couldn't understand it. And then he's like, forget it. Just forget it. I was like, oh, my gosh.
All right.
What is happening?
So
what is happening?
Then I'm called to be a witness. So originally the plan was me, then George. But so that George didn't have to be a part of separation of witnesses, since she already gave testimony, she got to stay in for the entire Zoom. And so that way there was no effect on my testimony, on her testimony, because she already gave testimony first. So the judge actually has me go up to the witness stand, and she's never had me do that before.
Because it's a teeny tiny courtroom. Like, it's not an open courtroom where people can just come and observe. It's not that type of courtroom.
So basically, in a nutshell, my lawyer asked me questions. How does this make you feel? It's fearful. We are fearful for our lives. This has changed our lives in the negative forever. Period. I mean, it's forever.
Including
this being
our
stalked.
relationship. He asked you, how's it affecting your relationship?
It's negatively affected all relationships, and it's negatively affected our lives forever. Like, wherever we go now, whether it's in Ohio, whether it's in Florida, we always are wondering who's watching, who's going to do something, who's stalking, who's going to try and assault, who's going to do this, who's going to do that.
And anyone looking our way, are they a friend or are they foe? Like, you can even ask Aunt Patty. Like, I hold my phone like this ready to record because I'm so fearful that, like, something's going to happen.
Because these two are mentally unstable, and birds of a feather flock together, and there are many people online flocking around
their
these
biggest
two.
Supporters behave just like them,
and they're horrific. And then people want to know, will you be at the Otter Creek Festival? We don't have an opportunity to defend ourselves, and the safety coordinator is doing absolutely nothing. So the last thing we want to do is be in the public eye right now. And so that's because of them. That's because of LIEnette. That's because of Crook. Our lives have fundamentally changed forever. If somebody even pulls into my drive here at Hales headquarters, I start flipping out because of the traumatic episodes with Crook, with LIEnette. And so I'm having a panic attack. I literally lean over to Eli and go, I'm having another panic attack, just heads up. It's like, I think I got this one under control. It's just seeing her face and hearing her voice will set it off. This, as much as we joke, this is very serious in our lives.
This is real life situations.
It has impacted us very negatively. And life will never be the same because of it. That's the reality of it. And so he asked me questions, and the answers are, yeah, we're fearful. We're very fearful. We're fearful for our lives on a daily basis. And we're fearful about security, and we're fearful about the lack of enforcement in Florida. And I even looked straight to the judge and I went, I want you to increase this 5 years for both of them. Take all their firearms away. And the counsel for them asked me, isn't it true in the past 14 days you posted 10 videos on LIEnette? And I said, yeah, and there's going to be another one today at 5:30, and it's going to be talking about how she hid the firearm for Crook and lied for Crook, and that morning told the truth to the deputies, but then that evening actually lied to TV 20.
They both lied to law enforcement.
And he goes, no more questions. I mean, come on. So again, it was all about YouTube.
Analytics. It had nothing to do with the allegations, the exhibits, or the evidence that we provided in court.
Nothing.
And another thing that I found odd is that he didn't call her as a witness.
Okay, I'm getting there. So I get down off of the stand. I look over to Eli, and the judge says, Mr. Heller, any more witnesses? He goes, nope. And I go, you're not going to call LIEnette as a witness? He goes, no, he's going to call LIEnette as his witness to defend herself, and then I'm going to cross-examine, so I don't have to call her. I went, okay. And then?
So typically that's how that works, is that the counsel has to call up a witness, and then our counsel would have the opportunity to cross-examine. But because her legal counsel didn't call her up as a witness...
Why?
Our attorney didn't have the opportunity to cross-examine her.
So the question is, why would her attorney not call her as a witness?
So she goes, I have plenty of evidence.
No, answer my question first.
Oh.
Why would her attorney not call her as a witness?
Because she's guilty.
Exactly.
She's guilty.
So, again, you have to ask the question, is this attorney for us or against us? He wouldn't even put his client in to give testimony. Now, what does that communicate to the judge? She's guilty. And when the judge asked him, do you have any witnesses? He goes, no, none at all. And she goes, and LIEnette then goes.
Then she goes, I have plenty of evidence. So the judge looks at
Now,
him.
pause for a second. Remember, in the very beginning, she said, I have no voice. She's, I have no voice. Now she's going to the judge. I want to speak. I have plenty of evidence.
So she looks at her counsel and goes, do you need 5 minutes to call your client on the phone to discuss this out in the hallway?
Because they're fighting on Zoom.
And he goes, no, I only need 2 minutes. So he didn't take advantage of the full 5 minutes.
He needed 2 minutes to say, shut up.
Yeah. He literally walked out to the hallway, called her, ring, ring. This is how I imagine the conversation go. I'll be the attorney.
Okay.
Ring, 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 ring,
I have
plenty
of evidence. Why won't you let me speak? You're taking away my First Amendment right.
LIEnette, I need you to keep your mouth shut.
My name is Michelle Lacey Alexis.
Whoever you are, Turtle Lady, I need you to keep your mouth shut. And then he hangs up without saying goodbye and then comes back into the courtroom.
And then she took that Stanley pink cup with the straw and she was like...
Ugly drinking.
And my panic attack went in full throttle. I was like, ah!
She did interrupt him while he was being direct examined, and the judge had to threaten to mute her.
So the judge said, you no longer are representing yourself. You have legal representation. If you speak again, I will mute you. Yeah. And pretty much that's how the hearing went. And in 1 month, we go back for the other hearing for John Crook. Now, we have not released this video yet because now we know what ridiculous questions this attorney is going to ask on their side.
YouTube analytics.
We know YouTube analytics, but the other thing in his closing arguments, he said, there is no authentication that this is LIEnette Preston or John Crook, and that vehicle is there, and that was them at town hall, even though the license plate is right there, even though it's clearly them. So we will have the police report. So everything in the second hearing, so the judge said she would not make a decision until the second hearing is over. So in the second hearing, we will bring the police report that George called them, and here they are, and the police report will say, yep, John Crook was there, yep, LIEnette Preston was there, yep, we told them to get lost, they're breaking the civil protection order. And then we also talked about the aspect that she double-fisted flicked us off in Walmart. You would have thought he would have objected. No video, just testimony. Now, it's two people's testimony, and therefore it's valid in court. He objected to none of it. And then Eli also brought up the aspect of her yelling at George, pulling her window down, going, so afraid. But he already told us he wasn't going to bring that up in this hearing. He was going to file another one so she would get another penalty, another violation, another offense on her record for breaking the civil protection order. But I guess he just threw it in, and her lawyer went, there's no proof of video of this, probably because it would make George look bad.
He did object to it.
So guess what? That video is going to be sent in as evidence now
for another court hearing,
which is why it was actually smart to have the first hearing and then go back to the second hearing, because This guy was so unprepared and has no true knowledge of what he's dealing with. And in the end, he's going to regret ever taking this on. But now we know exactly what to bring for the second hearing.
Well, he may withdraw. There's a possibility that he may withdraw and team up with our lawyer.
Everybody else has. It's 1 month later, and Crook is finally getting his hearing. As I was walking into the court, I saw their attorney. Now, I filmed their attorney, which is my legal right to do in a public area. And if this attorney doesn't want to be filmed, well, then he should have never placed himself in a public area where individuals can film you. Isn't that ironic how people cry and they whine, I'm being filmed, and yet they have no problem being in places where they are legally allowed to be filmed. Now, I used this film to show and share with George. I sent it to her. Then I went up to the courtroom. Once I get up into the courtroom, I am invited into the courtroom by the judge before my lawyer is there. And then my lawyer shows up and her lawyer shows up, and I hear a brief conversation out in the hall. Him complaining about me filming him, about professionalism, about no communication. And I never communicated with this individual. As a matter of fact, my lawyer comes in, and the very first thing I say to my lawyer is like, you go right back to him and tell him First Amendment. That's it. I have a First Amendment right, and I'm going to exercise it, and he can't take it away. And if he doesn't like it, he can get lost. That's the reality. If you don't like it, get out. Which is ironic because he then cries to the judge before she starts, says, Judge, I need to address something before we get started here today. Which then Crook shows up on the screen. Unfortunately, George isn't witnessing any of this, hearing any of this. She would have loved it because Crook shows up on the screen in all stripes. And I'm singing I Got Stripes by Johnny Cash in my head. I got stripes, stripes around my shoulders, and these chains are holding me. And I can't stop singing it, grinning as I'm watching Crook, because he's complaining to the deputy in jail. Can I put the camera up so they can't see me in these clothes? And the deputy literally says to Crook, you think they don't know you're in jail? You're going to court from jail. They know you're in jail. The reality of the ridiculousness of the situation was, it was hilarious. Now, I don't think we're going to get video of that, unfortunately, but we should be able to get audio of that. So then the lawyer for Crook complains to the judge saying, Judge, I know it's a public area, and he has First Amendment rights, but I heard him saying to the camera how he was 50 feet away, and he said, how could he defend somebody like this? And he literally tells the judge, this is Crook's lawyer, tells the judge, Jeremy's only filming me for content farming. Now, first of all, George and I don't even know what that word means. The only time we've ever heard it is from these fools who literally, from our understanding, you go into somebody else's life and you talk about their life instead of your own life, and then, oh, wait, wouldn't that be content farming? Oh, yeah, this guy is on YouTube. LIEnette and John learned about us from YouTube. This guy learned about us from YouTube. Literally, only reason he's involved, YouTube. That's it. There will be no promotion whatsoever for these individuals. They want fame. All they're receiving is shame. It's horrific. And he tells the judge, I want you to admonish Jeremy. And the judge literally says, there will be no judgments. There will be no admonishments. Let's get on with the trial. She does say, we will provide professionalism inside the courtroom. I was professional outside the courtroom, professional inside the courtroom. Individuals that want to shame themselves because they want fame to be involved in a what the hell's case, when they know they are defending horrific individuals, that's disgusting. From that point, what happens is George is actually pulled onto the screen. And so George is called as the first witness, which I have George with me right here, who happens to still be in Florida. George, what happened when you were up on the witness stand?
I was able to join via Zoom, and I got very small glimpses of John, and he was in his black and white jail suit.
He got stripes.
He was buzz cut.
He has a skullet now. Yes, he's buzz cut. So this is all mullet, and then this is all skull. He is literally buzz cut. He looks bad.
He has no facial hair, so he's clean shaven. He looked extremely weathered. I almost didn't recognize him, and I don't even think our attorney even recognized him.
Well, afterwards, our attorney said, "Holy cow, jail has not been kind to him. He looks horrible." Yeah.
He has been detoxing while in jail, so I mean that could be a part of why he looks weathered. But, you know, seeing him just made my stomach drop. My anxiety levels went up. It was extremely stressful. You know, none of this has ever been not stressful. And so I was called to the witness stand. I was the first one to testify. And I was direct examined. And then I was cross-examined by their legal counsel, who, by the way, found us on YouTube. If it wasn't for YouTube and following the life story of our lives here in Otter Creek, he would have never been representing them. So for him to complain about being filmed and YouTube, he found us on YouTube, which I don't understand why that's even an argument. If he didn't want to be on YouTube...
And he content farms. He literally talks about everybody else's life.
He does.
Yeah.
I've never checked out his channel, and I refuse to check out his channel. From what I do know, he does talk about other cases that he's not involved in. He inserts himself into other cases.
Content farming? Would that be content farming?
YouTube.
Interesting.
It would be.
Interesting.
His style of content is 100% content farming. This is our personal lives. These are our neighbors that used to be fans that intentionally bought property across the street from our property because they watched us on YouTube. And don't forget the letter that she wrote to the Ohio judge explaining all of that, but her lawyer doesn't know about that. He knows nothing about his clients except for YouTube.
She literally put in writing that she bought the property because we were there and she knew property would skyrocket. She put it in a legal document in the courts.
Let's remind them. Let's put a clip of it right here. I got to testify, and I explained that both of them are very familiar with what my vehicle looks like, because they've called Levy County Sheriff multiple times on me reporting that I drove by peacefully filming them, even though my window was rolled up. Even police reports indicating the direction I was going and where I was going, which is the schoolhouse. Yep. And so, I was cross-examined by their legal counsel, and I feel as though his cross-examination questions weren't very powerful.
I'm still wondering if he's for us or against us.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Your
I'm not
Honor,
sure the angle that he
Your
was
Honor,
going at.
Jeremy filmed me. Jeremy filmed me. He's in a public space, and he has a First Amendment right. But Jeremy filmed me. Admonish him.
I don't get it either. For someone to find us via YouTube and then complain that he may be on YouTube or was filmed makes no sense to me.
So our lawyer actually started to bring up Crook breaking the civil protection order at the courthouse in Florida 4 different times. So Crook's lawyer, this ridiculous individual that reminds you of Chris Farley, nowhere near as cool, nowhere near as funny, but flying through the air like the what ninja was that again?
Beverly Hills.
The Beverly Hills Ninja. So out of place, so awkward, so ridiculous. Starts objecting to talking about Florida because this is an Ohio case about the Ohio issues, not Florida. So while Eli was trying to show pattern that they continued to break the civil protection order on purpose, willingly, knowingly, the objection was heard, and the judge said, okay, let's stick to the actual Florida case, which we have tons of recordings, tons of information from the Levy County Sheriff Office, which he objected to that. You can't authenticate it. You can't say that that came from a Levy County deputy. Okay.
This is the same guy who said we can't authenticate whether that was her vehicle. We can't authenticate whether that was their white Jeep Wrangler. Everybody knows it's a small town. It's a small town, and everyone knows what vehicle everyone drives. Not to mention them calling the police on me when I drive by with my windows rolled up because I'm filming and he's screaming, "Stop filming me."
So then I'm called to the stand, and George is watching me on the stand, and I am questioned by my lawyer. And here's the significant part of this. Her lawyer, and his lawyer, is so inept. He is so, well, come on, the guy operates out of a P.O. box. That should tell you one thing. The guy literally is on YouTube all day. So he has no clients. That should tell you another thing. In other words, he sucks. He's not a lawyer. He has literally destroyed his reputation with other lawyers on YouTube. He has completely and totally destroyed his reputation and friendship with other lawyers on YouTube because of what he's doing and what he has done. And not only in our case, with other individuals. And so when it's time to cross-examine me, George, what does he do?
He tries to object to it.
He doesn't object. He says, I have no questions for Jeremy. He literally...
Well, at first, yes, he did say that, but he tried to object to you even being called to the witness stand because you weren't physically there during the event.
So he objects to me being called to the witness stand, and my lawyer goes, what are you talking about? It's his petition. And the judge goes, he is going to testify. And then when he's given a chance to actually cross-examine me, he is too big of a coward to actually even cross-examine me. Now, I think there's a couple reasons. Number one, he knows I would chew him up and spit him out. There's no doubt whatsoever. Number two, he knows his client is completely and totally guilty. His client is literally in stripes in jail, with more pending charges against an 18-year-old girl, feeling her up in the thighs and another no-no spot. Interesting. And he doesn't have the cojones to even cross-examine me. How pathetic. Literally pathetic. Which then, again, puts us in a position. We don't know who he's for and who he's not for. He's that horrible of a lawyer. And then when it comes to testifying, now with LIEnette, he tells LIEnette, you are not speaking. With John, he goes, John, do you want to testify? I mean, come on, he's already in jail. What more damage is it going to do? And John goes, no, you got it under control. John doesn't get up to testify either. You have two individuals, LIEnette and Crook, who are both guilty as the day is long. None of them willing to take the stand. Well, LIEnette was begging to. He wouldn't let her because she would self-incriminate. And then Crook's already in jail, so what's it going to hurt if he even more self-incriminates? Neither of them even take the stand to testify. How incriminating is that in a court of law? Like, did that shock you at all? Crook refused to testify?
Well, the first thing that shocked me was that he was even present. I didn't even think he would show up via Zoom. The second thing that shocked me was his appearance and how weathered he looked. Like I said, I did not recognize him because he usually has long hair, usually has a scruffy beard, and he was no facial hair, buzz cut. And maybe he got lice, and that's why they buzz cut him. I don't know.
Maybe he's the one that gave it to the child. Yeah, that's true. That does make sense. I don't doubt that at all. And the fleas. He probably brought the fleas in there, too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And in the first hearing, our lawyer mistakenly says Crook. In this hearing, I say Crook.
And he, oh my goodness, their legal counsel blew a gasket and just shouted, "I object!"
The judge goes, "Listen, I know why you're objecting," and then she goes, "Mr. Hales, professionalism." And you have to understand that we only call them by LIEnette and CROOK. We don't typically use their real names. It's for protection of themselves. It always was in the very beginning. So we were protecting their true identities. Well, the world now knows their identity. Oh, sorry, the planet now knows their identities. Not because we wanted to share it, because they made it known. They continue to break civil protection orders. They continue to process things in court. They continue to neglect and abuse individuals. They continue to partake in criminal activity. By the way, I have a First Amendment right to call him Crook if I want to call him Crook. So the judge can say no more. I can still do it. If I want to do it, she cannot stop me from calling him Crook in court. Out of respect for her, I did not say Crook anymore. And then there were the closing arguments. And this is what I found very interesting in the closing arguments. At the beginning, his lawyer, this pathetic individual, was literally arguing against video being shown from the deputies and that you took, arguing there's no authentication, you can't show it. And then in closing, he refers to the video, and then the judge goes, "Am I to take it that you're not opposing to this video being entered as evidence?" He goes, no, we want the video. When he had already objected to the video, then he refers to the video in closing, and the judge calls him out and goes, "All right, video's coming in as evidence." Like, how dumb can you be? How dumb?
So all in all, regardless whether, I was stressed out and our anxiety levels were high, at one point the judge put you in your place about something, and
saying Crook.
She's definitely fair.
She's a
definitely
fair
impartial.
judge.
She is very good at being a judge and listening and basically being a referee and keeping her courtroom in check. And so there was even a time where she put me in check because I would answer yes, and then I would finish it off with something else, and their legal counsel was getting irritated because I would explain why I drive on 24 to get to the schoolhouse. I think that's important to include that as part of the answer. And so there was twice where she had to put me in my place.
To just tell you, answer yes or no, don't elaborate.
And then the other time was, when he objects, don't talk over each other. And
you're on Zoom, you can't hear when he objects anyway. You're in the middle of a sentence answering a question.
Delayed. Yeah, it is delayed when you're on Zoom. And so he would interrupt me during mid-sentence and say, "I object."
And at one point, he objected so much that the judge said, "Listen, I already know you're going to object at every word they say. So hold your objection until they're done talking." So the judge put him in his place. And ultimately, what happened? Ultimately, as I walked out with my lawyer at the end of it, I said, "So what do you think?" He goes, "It's a slam dunk. It's the easiest thing in the world. They're afraid to even put their own individuals up on the stand." He goes, "You're absolutely 100% going to get a judgment against them." Now, the question is, how many more times are they going to violate it? Or will they both be in jail to where they no longer can violate it?